Welcome to This Week in Vexly. Normally we would start off by reviewing last week's trade ideas. But due to there being no ideas from last week, we will just get into what we are seeing with the Fed and liquidity. First we'll look at the CB swap lines, which have shown a recent pause in activity over the last week. This doesn't indicate a reversal in the downtrend we've been seeing, but is something to note due to the liquidity CB lines provide for the market. Next, looking at overnight repo action, there is nothing new to note from last week, as that is still flat. Now looking at the Fed balance sheet, we can see it has continued on its way down, and we are once again nearing levels we were at in February right before the Fed stepped in to provide liquidity to help the banking crisis. Next we will review the returns from last week by looking at our market view tool and noting how well IWM outperformed the market on Friday's close. Looking at the weekly returns, we want to point out that this is the third week in a row all of the big three have produced a positive return. This is a bit of a red flag for going into next week, and we caution any ideas of longs for the week. Looking at SPX levels, we want to note we will be watching 4,342.50 along with 4,180 as points of interest for the upcoming week. Now for our ideas for the week ahead. Starting off, we like SNO as a short going into the week due to the market maker model signaling it as a short. Looking at Pluto, we are also seeing a short signal was reached last week as well. Turning to our gamma levels, we can see a big positive position at 175 and the biggest negative at 170. We want to see 175 act as a wall. Looking at our Vanna levels, we want to note the largest positive peak is at 200 and largest negative is at 160. Looking at our skew model, we can see it is mostly flat going into this week, and next before seeing a larger drawdown further out. Also looking at seasonality, we want to note this is typically a strong time of year for SNO, and we want to express caution because of this. Last thing to note is our VX levels have already shown 180 to have rejected, and we are seeing price sit above 175, which we want to see fail. Next we like DDOG as short going into the week due to the short bearish signal from the market maker model along with Pluto having signaled for a sell late last week. Moving to our gamma profile, we want to note the positioning at 195, which price is currently in the middle of these two. We are looking for price to pull back to 95 and possible break below to head to 90. Looking at Vanna, we want to note the positionings at 95 and 90, which are deeply negative. Looking at skew, we can focus on P1 and how it is deeply negative this week, but then completely flips into next week, and here are the returns for the weekly seasonality. Lastly, we want to look at our VX levels and note how we have already seen 100 has failed to act as support and could be an ideal area to short. Our next idea is a short on spot due to it being a short bearish setup on the market maker model. Pluto is currently neutral, so we will be watching this for a signal for this week. Moving on to our gamma profile, we can see a large wall at 150 and the next largest positive position at 140. Looking at Vanna, we want to note the positioning that's positive at 155 and the largest negative at 140. Looking at our skew model, we want to note P1 is relatively flat for this week and next week. And here are our seasonal weekly returns. Lastly, we want to note the ghost print on our VX levels that is just below 149, which could be another clue that this is heading lower. For our last idea for the week, we like CCJ as a short going into the week due to the short bearish signal from the market maker model. Pluto is coming off a sell from last week, and we want to wait for another sell signal to short. Next, moving on to our gamma profile, we want to note that positioning is overall bullish due to the positivity, and we see the peak at 30 to act as a wall. Turning to Vanna, we want to note the positioning at 34, 32, and 25. Next we'll look at our skew model, which is lightly positive for the next 2 weeks. And here is our seasonal weekly returns. Lastly, we want to point out how price has held 30 on our VX levels. But we haven't seen any major movements with above average buying or selling recently. And due to that positive seasonality, we caution any heavy short positions on CCJ because it is not very volatile, but we do think it will struggle to move very far past 30. For a final recap, we see a higher likelihood of seeing a very choppy or red week due to the recent positive returns we've seen from the market, along with not seeing a reason for liquidity to improve anytime soon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.